everyone, and welcome back to James Talk Sport. Action-packed Tour de France so far, and stage 3 and 4 proved no different. Lots of crashes, lots of drama, and two fantastic stage wins to talk about as well. So let's get right into it. Remember, if you like what you see in these videos, please leave a like, leave a comment, and if you want to get the videos quicker, please subscribe and hit the bell icon on the side as well. So stage 3 covered 182.7 kilometers from Lorient to Pontivy. On the stage itself featured two categorized climbs, an intermediate sprint. But the first drama happened well before then, with 145k to go. Geraint Thomas crashed. Not quite sure what happened. It was over a speed bump. Whether he just lost his hands, I'm not sure. In the end, dislocated his shoulder. Eventually remounted, got back into the group, and seems to be okay. Well, able to ride. Fast forward, a lot of the time, as the race was bubbling up towards the nice, lovely crescendo we expect at the finish, there was a crash containing Valentin Madoua, one of David Gaudu's big domestiques, and then the second big GC crash of the day, with 10k to go. Primoz Roglic was seen very nastily hitting the ground. Initially, it looked like Sonny Colbrelli caused it, but as the peloton moved left, you could tell Roglic then tried to jump up and then found there was nowhere to go, interlocked bars with Colbrelli, and down he went. Both of those crashes, purely rider error on Thomas's and Roglic's part. And then, as we headed into the final 5k, there was a technical descent. I think we can all agree it was technical, but personally, I don't think it was particularly dangerous. They went round a tight hairpin. They tried to go round it 3, 4, 5 abreast, and frankly, that was a recipe for disaster on the rider's part for me. And it took out the whole peloton pretty much. Jack Haig was the worst to come from it. Concussion and broken collarbone for him. He's out of the race, obviously. Demar was caught up in the crash as well, but I think he was okay. GC-wise, Tadej Pogačar didn't go down, but he was caught up behind as well and lost a large chunk of time. In terms of the sprint itself, the only GC guy to make it through that was Richard Carapaz. He now moves into third overall, virtual yellow if you take out Alaphilippe, ready for the TT in the mountains. So the sprint itself, Alpecin had their riders. They had Ricard, then they had Van der Poel, then Philipsen, and then Tim Merlier. They led them out superbly, and Tim Merlier took the win. In behind, they had Ewan and Sagan battling for the wheel. As they went round that sweeping right-hander, Ewan tried to cut through to get onto Merlier's wheels and took out himself and Sagan. It's very sad to see Caleb Ewan leaving the race. As we know, he's one of the fastest in the world and would have probably won 1 or 2 stages. So rest up and prepare for the Vuelta, Caleb. After that, obviously, there were lots of questions about rider safety. Gilbert came out and said that they had agreed with the with ASO to extend the 3k rule to 5k rule. And basically, if there was a crash on that technical descent, it would have neutralized the time gaps. Personally, I think that was a nice compromise between allowing them to race and, keeping the riders safe, because that is the big, major, important thing. I didn't see, as I've mentioned, I didn't see anything particularly wrong with the route. They've done races and routes like that plenty of times before and they haven't crashed. Um, but clearly, the jostling for position, um, it's huge these days. And GC teams are there, sprint teams are there, so maybe I think I don't necessarily think the route should have changed or neutralizing it completely would have changed, but maybe something like a flexible 3K rule, so they could get on the ASO could get on the radio with 50K to go, saying due to the nature of the finish, with the weather being the factors of the weather, the climbing, the descending, the nature of the technical sprint, maybe they could say we're extending 3K rule to 5K to 8K or whatever, just to make the GC teams a little bit more relaxed. They don't have to stay at the front. I guess the problem with that is they're still going to be up there because you can get time gaps in the sprints themselves on technical stages. So but they won't have to be at the front, whereas like Lotto, Groupama, Alpecin, Quick Step can be up there themselves, ready to go. But quickly on the winner, Tim Merlier, 2 years ago, didn't have a contract. Now he's won a stage in the Giro and a stage in the Tour. I wouldn't be surprised if they take him to La Vuelta and he completes the set. What a perfect way to announce yourself on the world stage as one of the fastest sprinters that would be. Stage 4 now, from Redon to Fougères. Scene of a Cavendish win in 2015, which was wonderful. So we were hoping that he would go on and repeat that. The race itself, it started off with a protest, if you can call it that, in the first kilometres of the stage. They rode slowly for a bit, then they stopped for a minute, and then they rode slowly for another 5 to 10k, and then the racing sort of, the two breakaway guys went. Personally, if you're going to make a protest about rider safety, and I understand completely why they did, even if I don't agree necessarily with it, I understand why. You've got to hit ASO, the UCI, where it hurts. Personally, if it was me, I would have said, get to kilometre 0 and we stop for 20-25 minutes. Then that would completely mess with the timings, the TV, the race finishes, the podium, and everything. That would have really hit them where it hurts a little bit. For what they did, I don't think it will change much. I am with Sagan on this one. It's not going to change a whole lot at all. Fast forward to the racing itself, we had a two-man breakaway. Brent Van Moor, winner of stage 1 on the Dauphiné, and Luc Perichon was in the break. Built up a nice little advantage, but never really got away from the peloton. However, Brent Van Moor decided to go on the attack to try and win. The peloton were hesitant, or they couldn't catch him. Yeah, he's got history, as I said, at the Dauphiné. He did something similar. And in the end, it came very close. Sprint teams couldn't work together to chase them. They didn't want to sacrifice riders while others sat back. Lotto played it superbly, having 2 or 3 riders dotted around the front to slow things down. And with a K to go, you thought he could do it. It was a rise to the finish, which obviously played into the peloton's hands. Eventually, Alaphilippe took control with a K and a half to go, and that probably sealed Brent Van Moore's fate. Morku then dropped Cavendish off at Alpecin's wheel. They were working for Jasper Philipsen, and with about 300 to go, they caught Brent Van Moor. First signs that Cav is back to his best was he had to go through a narrow gap. A couple of years ago, he would have lost his confidence, broke, and not sprinted. But today he went for it and went round Philipsen and took a fantastic stage win. More on that in a second, but Jasper Philipsen was in third. Nasser Buhani is good to see him back showing some form and also not taking anyone out with a fantastic result for second. Good to see him back on form, as I've said. Case Bowles up there, but Mark Cavendish was the fastest. And I mean, I don't imagine there'd be a dry eye. There certainly wasn't on Quick Step. There certainly wasn't for me. 2016, he won four stages, including taking yellow. But since then, he's had glandular fever a couple of times. The biggest thing was he lost all confidence in the sprint, which meant that he then didn't have a contract for this year. Quick Step took him on, I think, on no pay salary from sponsors but bonuses, and gave him the lifeline. He came back to win in Turkey. He came back to win in Belgium. And now he's won his 31st stage of the Tour. Can he break the record in this race? Why not? We know with Cav that in history of when he wins in Tours that one normally brings two, three, and four. He needs three now to equal the record of Eddie Merckx. For me, he's got 5 opportunities that will come down to sprints. So, if I was Quick Step, I would be saying, right, let's back him. Let Alaphilippe go rogue in the mountains as they normally will, and yeah, he what a win. I mean, it was great. What else can you say? I'm speechless. He's speechless. No one probably expected it to happen this time last year. If you said to him he's going to win a stage of the Tour de France, he would have probably laughed at you. But now he's done it. So yeah, that's the wrap up of 3 and 4. Now I'm going to take a quick look at the overall classification in ready for tomorrow's stage 5 individual time trial, and then make a small prediction over what I think is going to happen with the time gaps. I forgot to mention in all the entertainment of yesterday's stage, Cav's back in green. And with the way the likes of Sagan, with the injuries and other riders, I think he could really target that green jersey, supporting the rainbow bands, and I think he could potentially win it. I think it does depend on what Alpecin do, whether Van der Poel or Philipsen are the men for that. But anyway, let's get on to the GC and see where riders are in readiness for tomorrow's TT. So, Van der Poel's obviously in yellow, but he isn't a GC rider. So Alaphilippe is in yellow, so to speak. You've got Carapaz and Wout van Aert, 31 seconds behind Van der Poel, so about 23 seconds behind Alaphilippe. Carapaz will lose a lot of time, probably a minute to a minute and a half. Wout van Aert is obviously one of the favourites to win the stage. Wilco Kelderman, you've got a further 7 seconds behind them. Good time trialist, he will hold stations or move up. Pogacar a second behind Kelderman. We know how good he can time trial. Mas and Quintana both another second behind Pogacar. Then you've got 52 seconds, so 44 seconds behind Alaphilippe. You've got a group containing Gaudu, Higuita, Mollema, Uran, and Chavez. Thomas is 59 seconds behind Alaphilippe. Primoz Roglic is the worst off of the main overall favourites after his banged up crash. He is a minute and 35 behind Van der Poel, so about a minute 27 behind Alaphilippe. Normally, Roglic and Thomas will be two favourites for the TT tomorrow, but they've got big injuries. Thomas obviously dislocated right shoulder. Roglic has obviously got hip, and his, as you saw on his Instagram, his backside was covered. The main one is the TT position, so the shoulder and the elbows for Thomas and Roglic respectively will be quite banged up. So it's a case of whether they can stay in that position for very long. In terms of the stage, I would imagine Stefan Bissiger or Stefan Kung would be my top favourites, but then throw in Wout van Aert. So I'm going to say Stefan Kung is going to take the stage, and Alaphilippe will be in yellow. Or Wout van Aert, I think it will be close, but I think Alaphilippe will take it and stay and go back into yellow. I think if someone like Carapaz can limit the damage to a minute and a half, I think he'll be having a good day. Same with Gaudu and those climbers that can't time trial, as well as the likes of Pogacar. Stage 3 has set it up to be a fantastic little race. Carapaz is ahead of Roglic, which we never expected, especially after stage 1. 27.2k. There's a few technical sections. There are a few straights where the aero will obviously take into major account. I think a minute and a half, and Carapaz has had a good day. Any worse, and I think you'd potentially struggle to see him win the Tour. So there we have it. 2 dramatic days. It's hard to get your head around some of them, but there you go. 2 more days to come with the TT and then the stage 6 into Châteauroux, home of Cav's first win. So come on, Cav. So let's see what the action brings for the next 2 days, and I'll be back in a couple of days to talk about stages 5 and 6. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.